Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. I see people are coming in. Wherever in the world you are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We appreciate you taking 1 hour out of your time to join us with this exciting event that we're going to talk today about career outcomes and salaries after you complete your studies as RPI. We are excited to be part of this conversation because now more and more every student and parent wonders one thing and one thing only. What do I get out of my education? And the goal of this conversation is for you to understand all the opportunities that you will receive while you're studying at RPI, all the resources, so then you can take the degree and make a difference in the world with a degree and with the support that RPI can give you. With that in mind, before we start, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Blerina Polovina. I currently serve as the Associate Vice President at International Recruitment and U.S. Partnerships at eUni Global, which is a great partner of RPI, and we are very, very excited to be here to talk to you. My journey with international education has started many, many years ago. While I've been with eUni Global for about 8 months, I've been working for about 15 to 16 years on international education at another university. And I've been working with international students all the time. So this topic really excites me because I've always told students it's imperative for anybody when they come and study at a university, well, you give 100% in the classroom. Do not forget the opportunities that you will get out of the classrooms at the universities and the professors and the staff members will offer to you. And if you take advantage of those opportunities and you show up, trust me, that knowledge and that experience once you graduate will put you in a whole different level than other students who really did not show up and take advantage of all the things that universities and the staff and the professors there will offer to you. So I'm really excited to be part of this conversation, and I'm really happy that we are joined by two great guests from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. I'd like first to introduce Mr. Philip Bruce. He is the Assistant Vice President for Experiential Learning and Professional Development at CCPD. That is a handful of a title, sir. uh, so, but I think that title really introduces what you and your responsibilities are. And I think what it is, it's giving the students the experiential learning, the skills and the tools and the opportunities to connect them with what they're looking for. Would you want to say hello and just maybe speak a bit, do more justice than I did to what you actually do?
Well, thank you very much. Yes, good day, everybody. So that is a long title, and it started with me just being the director of the Career Center here, but we saw a lot of connections in other areas, so they just kept adding things to that title. But yeah, that's what I do here is support students in their career journey.
Thank you, Philip. And the next guest that will join us is Professor Johan Maharjan. I'm sorry, did I say it right, sir? I apologize.
You did. You did.
And you are the Associate Professor of Finance and the Director of the MBA program. In his role, he teaches and conducts research in finance while also overseeing the design and the delivery of the MBA program to make sure that it meets the expectations and what the the corporate world is doing, and you want to make sure that program is meeting the expectations of the future employers. Will it be a fair assessment to describe what your job is about, sir?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I am so happy both of you joined our conversation. Before we started, I'm going to pass the baton to both of you because you can speak better than I do about the opportunities at the Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. Just a few housekeeping notes. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A chat in part into the webinar. We will keep an eye throughout the presentation, and then we will ask our guests to answer most of those questions. If for some reason we are not able to answer all questions, we will take note of those and we will reach out to you by email to finish answering any of those questions. But keep an open mind. If you have any questions, just throw it in there and we will connect with you right after the webinar to see what we can answer in person, and then we will follow up with with written answers for anyone that were not able to. And with that, Professor Johan, I will pass the virtual floor to you so you can start the presentation with an introduction about RPI and then all the information about the career outcomes, the salary information that I'm sure a lot of students are keen to learn more.
Oh, definitely. Thanks for inviting and welcome everyone who are attending this virtually. As pointed out, I am the director of MBA program as well as associate professor of finance. I've been at RPI for a good 11 years. So I more or less know everything you need to know about the university. And as far as university goes, it's an old university. It was founded in 1824, which is more or less 22 years ago. We just had our bicentennial celebration last year. And it is also the oldest technological university in the United States. Not many people know this. So we are the oldest technological university here in the States. Our RPI has a strong focus on solving real world problems through science and innovation. That's what we are known for. And we have a vast ocean of very well-renowned alumni as well. Some of them are the pioneers in their own field, like Marcian Hoff, who co-founded the microprocessor, Ray Tomlinson, who invented email, Curtis Prime, who was the co-founder of NVIDIA, and RJ Scaringe, who is the CEO and co-founder of Rivian. So you can imagine a world without them. More recently, and this is something I found out after the fact, Reed Wiseman, who commanded the NASA's Artemis 2 mission recently to the moon, he was a Lally graduate. He graduated from Lally School in 1997. So there we go. Now, as far as Lally School is concerned, well, we build on this legacy by combining business with technology. That's what we're known for. We are an AACSP accredited school, and our main strength is in analytics, AI, and the ethical impact of innovation. Our graduates have gone on to take on various roles in companies which are world-renowned, like Goldman Sachs, Deloitte, Amazon, IBM, to name a few. As far as location is concerned, we are tucked in a city/town called Troy, New York, which is in the capital region, that is the capital of New York State. But we are just a few hours drive from New York City, Boston, Montreal. So this gives students access to major industry hubs while still having a close-knit campus experience. So you won't miss out on the city life as well as the campus experience. Now, as far as career outcome goes, well, we all know that academic experience is not the only thing you want from your university stay or university experience. You also want good bang for the buck for what comes afterwards. At RPI and Lally, the value of degree is not what we learn. It's not just what you learn, it's also where it takes you. First thing is return on investment, right? This whole talk is about return on investment. Let me say a word or two about it. So a degree should translate into strong financial outcomes. We know it, right? That's the whole point of getting a degree, what we get out of it. RPI graduates, now this is the undergraduate figure, I'll talk about the graduate figure as well. RPI graduates earn a median of 102,000 within 10 years, which is roughly double the US average. For the MBA program, our graduates have a average starting salary of 102,000 as well, which is a coincidence. For Masters of Science program, it's close to 100,000. So you do get a good bang for the buck for your education. As far as career placement and progression goes, RPI historically has very high placement rate, as high as 98%, and strong employment within few months of graduation. As I pointed out early, our graduates move into roles at firms like Amazon, Goldman Sachs, Apple, IBM, Deloitte, Google, to name a few. As far as access to industry and experiential learning goes, well, I don't want to steal the thunder from Philip Bruce, as this is his area of expertise, but let me briefly point out that RPI's ecosystem has more than 1,000 recruiting employers, co-op programs, internships, and career fairs. So it gives students direct pipeline into industries. Now, in the management program, all the master's program, including MBA, have a required core course called Practicum in Management or Capstone. Well, think of it as a gateway to industry. So you'll be working on projects alongside people in the industry. So you'll be basically getting an experience about what the industry or real world looks like while you are doing your studies here. Now, as far as long-term career trajectory goes, well, everyone wants to make a lot of money. And what we have seen is that our graduate salary go up very rapidly. Now, for the undergraduates, which is not necessarily related to this particular audience, but let me just point out that their salary reaches 120 to 150,000 within 5 to 10 years of graduation. For graduates, again, the rise is from 130 to 160,000 within few years of graduation. So this points out the strong upward mobility you'll have from our degree. Now, regarding career outcomes, well, our graduates generally take on a diverse, high-impact career paths. Um, Again, I may sound like a broken record, but our graduates secure roles across, in fields like consulting, finance, and marketing, those typical, fields you expect from a management degree, but also in tech-driven areas like product management, business analytics, and digital strategy. Now, remember I said that uh, our graduates accepted jobs in companies like IBM, Apple, Amazon, and those things, which is not by a fluke. As you probably have guessed, our graduates are uniquely placed to work at the intersection of business and technology by leveraging skills in analytics, AI, and data-driven decision making to drive innovation and leadership. Um, Many students pursue careers in traditional business fields, as I pointed out, like consulting, finance, marketing, as well as technology-intensive environments. But a growing number of our graduates have moved into fields like data science, business analytics, AI, digital transformation roles, and such. More so now than a few years back, primarily because we have rolled out new MBA concentrations in AI and advanced computing as well as design. So it's more relevant now. Some of our students also, I think I've moved on from career outcome, but I'm more or less in uh, uh, placement. So I think we need to move the slides a bit. As far as salary goes, I've already more or less highlighted the rough ballpark numbers, but if you have more questions on that, I'll be happy to field it during the Q&A. But the more important part is the placement part. And as I pointed out, our students usually go to the traditional management fields, but they also go to the more data science, business analytics type of fields as well. And some of our students also go into advanced graduate studies like PhD programs. So to me, this is the RPI advantage, right? Where disciplines kind of converge and careers expand. Now, as far as experimental learning goes, I'll well, Phil Bruce is better suited for that discussion. So I'll pass on the floor to Philip Bruce.
Thank you, Johan. And I suspect he could also speak to experiential learning because it is a core piece of what we do here at RPI. So it's heavily embedded and baked into the curriculum at both the undergraduate and graduate levels. And it's kind of key, to be honest with you, to a lot of the stuff that Johan just shared with you in terms of those outcomes. How do we get to those outcomes? So what I mean by that is experiential learning sort of adds more value to your academic time here at RPI. And that takes different forms, right? So you'll see things like internships and co-ops. A co-op is simply a multi-semester internship, if you want to think of it that way, right? So if you're here for 2 years, you could do a co-op, either back-to-back semesters, or you could do one summer and then a following summer. Whatever is going to work best for you, is what we're going to try to help you achieve. Same thing with research projects and faculty collaboration. At this stage in your academic career, you probably have a pretty solid idea of what you want to study and what you want to specialize in. Good news at RPI is we probably got somebody that's a subject matter expert in those fields. And if that's the case, then there's obvious connections for research, and getting to know the faculty and what that subject matter is intimately. That's very critical. So you learn the theory and then you practice it. And that's again where you get to applied work-based projects. There's company and industry involvement in those kinds of things where they're embedded into the classes. So you're working on real-world problems that you can then articulate in an interview later. So experiential learning is sort of the main ingredient in how we get to our career outcomes. When you think about the actual career center, so on our next slide, you'll see it's called the CCPD. And if we had written all of this out on my title as well, we'd still be listening to Balloon and do the introduction. But the CCPD, and you'll find that we like acronyms here, stands for the Center for Career and Professional Development. Now, this is a centralized unit on our campus. While Johan and his colleagues in the Lally School do some advanced level career development, they don't have a singular office devoted to that. That's what the CCPD does for the whole institute. That's really critical because it allows us to take an interdisciplinary approach to your career development, right? We have certainly MBA students who got a degree in mechanical engineering as an undergrad. So it allows us to kind of merge those two fields together and support the student in ways that they need to be supported. What does that look like? Well, there's personalized career advising, skill building opportunities. Let me just tell you what that could look like. If you do an internship or a co-op or even a research project with a faculty member, we register you in a LMS course during that time. And we talk about things like interpersonal skills, problem solving under pressure, professional development skills that are taking place for you to develop while you're on that experience. Your skill building will depend on you and what you need. And so that personalized advising helps us inform that. Same thing with strategic planning tools for intentional career moves. We know that what you're studying is probably very specific, and so we need to have a specific plan on whether or not you want to go into industry or academia and how to support you in that. With that comes a lot of career exploration. There's definitely going to be opportunities that are presented to you while you're here at RPI that you wouldn't have thought of. So exploring what that could look like, not being so boxed into a singular path, is always helpful in securing the opportunity that you want. And again, we support you in all of those areas that you see there. When it comes to actual career resources, so there's a couple of ways that we support you in this. And on this slide, you will see Handshake for job and internship opportunities. Handshake is a platform used by many institutions of higher education, and it allows you to just sort things, filter things that we have curated and sourced for you. You can do so by whether or not if the position supports OPT, CPT, if it supports sponsorship. There's a lot of different ways you can sort for those opportunities. And I checked this morning before the webinar, and right now we have about 3,000 opportunities currently as of this morning for students that would accept OPT, do not require U.S. work authorization, and are domestic here in the U.S. That number goes up to about 5,000 when you look at our international opportunities. So again, this is where we source opportunities for you and put them into one place. We allow you to find all of your career resources in that platform. One of those career resources is Career Shift. And it's pretty cool because you can use that platform once you find a job that you're excited about to look to see if there's RPI alumni at that organization and how we would reach out to them and contact them. Not necessarily to ask them for a job, but to say, I applied to this job. I'm also an RPI student. Do you have 10 minutes to talk to me about what it's like working there? And when you start to build those relationships, you're adding points to get to where you need to be for your career outcome. A lot of times people think you just go onto ONET or Forage and find something and apply for it and you're done. That's not true. That's part of it. But the other pieces are those relationships. And we have a number of software systems that help us connect you to those types of things. As far as industry connections go, some of you will certainly go into academia after this in some form. Many of you will go into industry, though. We offer two career fairs on campus. These are major career fairs, so you're seeing 150 to 200 employers in both the fall and the spring semesters. We do a Lally specific networking event for finance in the fall semester. If you're an architecture student, we do your own fair for you in the spring just for architecture. And there's a number of other, what I would call mini industry specific fairs, right? So semiconductor industry is a big deal in the capital region that Johan described to you where we're located. You have companies like Micron, Applied Materials, Global Foundries, a lot of companies that are in that industry. We bring them all together for a semiconductor summit every fall. This is great for whatever major you're in that's connected to that industry. So those are the kind of things that we're trying to do on the career fair piece. The employer-led events are what they kind of sound like, right? So we will, because of our geographic location, every week in the fall and spring semester, we do career treks to local organizations. Some of them are ones you would recognize the names of, Boston Scientific, Goldman Sachs, that kind of thing. But others are more mid-sized companies where you might find a really solid opportunity that you're excited about. In any of those cases, we want you to go on those trips just to expand your network. You'll find alumni there at these companies. As I said earlier, how to search for them, but they are really successful in these organizations. And when we do these career tracks, it's great to connect with an RPI alum who knows what you're going through and will support you and help you. They also exist across over 100 countries. So we send RPI graduates all over the place. Some come from other countries and then return to other countries. And they are very supportive of students in those spaces as well. Partnerships with industry and research organizations. Research is been a challenge over the past 12 months, 14 months, I'd say. But it's okay because we have very resilient relationships with national labs. We have a lot of contact with, honestly, it's from our faculty connections with labs outside of the US as well. So regardless of what your kind of area of expertise is or what you want it to be, we're going to be able to find some connections for you at those organizations. So international student career support. This is really something we're proud of. Our ISSS office is the one that we work the closest with on this. Anything related to international students. With the volatility and how things work at the federal level, sometimes it's good to just have an office where you can go and get immediate information support on how whatever your issue might be or what you think an issue might be. So we do a lot of workshops. We do a lot of online resources for our international students to make sure that they have what they need when they need it. It's also incredibly helpful to have an office that supports you through your OPT, CPT, filings with CVIS and all of those kinds of things. The International Student Scholars and Support Center we work very closely with them. So anytime you've got an opportunity, we're going to get connected with that office and work together with you to make sure that your plan of study, what you're planning on doing, is absolutely legal, fine, and we don't want you to experience any issues in that space. So As you think about understanding the return on investment, right? You've heard a lot of things already this morning. Some are repeat things because they're important and we want you to know those. So, we view an RPI degree as not just did you survive the academic classes and, make the grades to graduate. It's really about these other things. It's a commitment that we're giving you as a student to really support you throughout your career. And the way we do that, is through these bullet items that you see here. I will say the strength of the professional alumni networks are quite amazing. We we these are also alumni that aren't on the front page all the time of the press or whatever. They're doing stuff. They're like really focused on their career and whatever industry they're in. And so you don't hear as much about them, but they're actually the ones that are doing all of the work. So if that's of interest to you, you'll be joining a great alumni network that exists there. And as Johan said, there's a lot of long-term earning potential and career acceleration. Through that experiential learning and the things that we do in that space, you will just enter the workforce with a head start, to be honest with you, in a lot of ways. And I'd be happy to tell you more about what that looks like, what the curriculum is for those things, if you have questions in the future. And I guess just to wrap it up, I want to reinforce a few things about RPI itself. So we are a globally ranked STEM program. As Johan said, we're the oldest in the Western speaking world when it comes to technical schools. The career readiness of our graduates is pretty impressive, right? So we're between 90 and 95% of graduates employed or pursuing what they want to do when they graduate from here. And they're making a good starting salary. That does not include bonuses or sign-ons or those kinds of things. And while it is major specific in terms of the amount, the overall $82,000 number should give you some confidence that you're going to financially benefit from a degree here. As I mentioned, robust internship and co-op opportunities. We have about 1,000 recruiters that work directly with the Lally School, and in our database, we have 12,000 that recruit here annually. That's a huge number in terms of we don't have that many students. So as long as you're engaging in the process with us when it comes to those employer interactions, you're going to have opportunities that are available to you. Again, lots of research that happens here. It's a top tier STEM research institute, so you should expect to see a lot of those opportunities. We are welcoming, I think, in the sense that Troy, New York, is a very diverse place. We're right next to the state capital, Albany, like right across the river. Um, so there's a lot of different cultures here, a lot to do and explore, and I'd be pretty confident that you could find something of home in this area fairly quickly. We also don't have a large international student population on campus, which allows us to devote a lot of services to those communities. We have ways to get involved that I don't even know all of them. There's 200 plus student organizations. Um, some of the things you'll see frequently are things like the Rocket Club. You will see a lot of engineering type organizations. But Johan and his crew over in Lally have also created things like consulting clubs, right? So they give money to students to manage financially. There is a lot of neat organizational opportunities when you come to RPI that aren't just like grab pizza and hang out on a Wednesday. They're actually doing stuff. Again, real world stuff. And then the last thing I'll say is RPI, I've been at several institutions, but RPI is a unique place in that, yes, it is competitive to get in here, but once you're here, you're surrounded by brilliant people who just want to help you be successful. I don't see the competition between students that I've seen at other schools. It is much more of a support network. So they all kind of gang up against their faculty and go through it together and just remarkably have that connection to each other when they leave here. And I just think that's an important piece to note about RPI. If you come, you will be supported because you matter and we value you. So that's my portion, I think. I'm assuming we're going to have some questions next. Is that right?
Yeah, there's quite a few questions. So thank you both,
Okay.
Philip and Johan. And I know, Johan, when Philip was talking about the club, you unmuted yourself. I'm not sure. Did you want to say something about the club that you have with
Yeah, yeah, I do. So there are 4 or 5 very, interesting and influential clubs at Lally, which are Lally specific. But the most important one is the Rensselaer Finance Club. Now, I say the most important because the club manages more than $300,000 in investment. So it's the club who decides where to invest, how to invest. Of course, there will be a faculty who will be supervising, but it's a club itself. So, and this is unique to some extent to RPI and Lally because I don't know any other schools or not many schools where a club uh, actually manages such a huge amount of money. So that's something you can, take part in if
Yeah.
you join RPI.
And I don't think a lot of people know about such opportunities. Sometimes when, especially students who are coming in from abroad, they think experience is only through work experience, but there's so much more ways one can get that experience to be as competitive in the market once they graduate. So this is exciting. We have quite a few questions. I will start with some questions. Um, I want to start with one because I found it interesting and I always find it. It's realistically, how early should a student actually start thinking about the careers? Now, I have my opinion, and I frankly tell students you should start before you arrive. But um, when they come to RPI, when do you recommend they start thinking about what I want to do and get involved with all the services, Philip, that you are offering, or get involved with faculty right away and make those connections? What would you recommend a student who's planning of becoming a student and starting their journey at RPI?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, like many things related to students, it's going to vary depending on the student, right? However, what I would say in just general terms is the sooner the better, right? It doesn't mean that you have to have the end goal figured out to start that process. And I think that's what happens. A lot of times students are like, well, I'm not really sure, so I'm not going to engage in the process until I am sure. And that's kind of a chicken before the egg situation, right? Like we would much rather you come in and tell us, hey, I'm here. I don't know what I'm going to do with this degree yet, 100%, but I'd like to at least start to get a plan. And that's important because we want to get your CV and your resume updated immediately. Because you never know when you're going to encounter a faculty member or an industry partner that says, hey, I've got an opportunity. Why don't you send me your documents? If you have those ready to go, that's an opportunity you can capitalize on. It's not something you necessarily plan for, but if you've come in early and we are on the lookout for those kinds of situations, you can capitalize on them. The world's only going to give you, a certain number of those opportunities as you move through life. We want you to be prepared for them when that happens. So my answer would be day one, as soon as you're accepted, create your handshake account,
Great.
let us know what you want.
If
Absolutely.
I may add,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
an excellent, response, especially for the master's program and including MBA program at Lally. You need to keep in mind that, you can finish the program in 1 year, or, if it's master's, you can extend it to 1.5 year. If it's MBA, you can extend it to 2 years. Now, that's not a lot of time when it comes to getting a job because, for every job, there are multiple rounds of interview, or, so, so as Phil pointed out, sooner the better. We will help you. CCPD is there to help you, but we can help you a lot better if you give us a lot of time. So my answer is, as soon as you come join RPI, start thinking about jobs as well. Start posting your resume. Start applying to schools. I think that will give you a lot better chance of getting an employment before you graduate.
I agree as well over there. Um, I know another question, and it connects to this. There's a lot of opportunities at RPI with what we heard right now, right, with students to be involved, but not everyone will get the same outcome. In your experience, what makes the difference? Um, I always say, like, on my perception, when I've always told students is you got to show up and you got to be involved and you got to put yourself out there. So opportunities are only there for only the ones who are willing to show up. But from your experience, for different opportunities, who have been the ones that have been the more successful um, like through their studies and after their studies, taking advantage of opportunities? Like Philip, I know you said you have 150, 200 employers come twice a year, right? And a student may just start fall 2026. I would have told the student when I was at another school, you show up on that employer event right then and there to understand what they're looking for, so you can prepare yourself for what the future corporate and what the future employers are looking for once they graduate. But on your experience, what makes it a successful student who has used the opportunities the right way?
So that's a great question. And I would say the students, there are certainly students that wait until the very end of their academic career and start their career search process and they're successful, namely because they've got the skills developed at that point and there's a demand for them. That is a more risky path to take, and certainly can lead to a lot of stress around graduation. I would do this incrementally. And the students that I see that experience the least stress in this process and the best outcomes are the ones who devote a certain amount of time every semester they're here to their career development. And they don't wait until the very end to try to do it all at once. So very similar to the study habits that have allowed you to be successful in this level of academic rigor, you would apply to your career piece. So maybe you do plan on going to the fall career fair, which happens at the end of September. The first 3 weeks that you're on campus, though, in August, you might want to consider looking at those employers that are coming, reaching out on LinkedIn, doing some things that our team will help you do to get connected. So that way, when you meet them at the career fair, it's not the first time they know who you are. Those are the kind of little incremental things that I've seen produce the best results for students. And what that looks like at the end is they wind up having multiple offers to consider. Whereas the student that waits until the very end or it simply treats Handshake as like a vending machine where you put application in and get job out. If that's your only factors going into your formula for success, I don't know that that'll work. You really do need to have a series of engagement points with the resources that we've offered and that I've shared. You do that and you do it over the time you're with us, and that's where the most successful outcomes occur.
If I may add,
Of course.
when you the fact that you will be at RPI means you're well qualified, and the fact that you will be taking courses at RPI means that we equip you with everything you need to succeed in the real world. But when it comes to getting a job or applying for a job, to me, that's basically you're trying to be a salesperson, or you're trying to sell your abilities to your employers. So now I see a lot of participants who are most likely from abroad. So English probably is your second, third, even fourth language, and oftentimes you're not comfortable with the language itself. You need to overcome that fear. Now, we do offer professional development courses, a couple of them. That's a required course where we try to equip you with tools that will help you overcome that fear. But you have to actively or proactively try to overcome that public speaking fear or your fear of a crowd, for instance, right? One example I'll give is I don't know whether you guys know a show called Shark Tank. It's basically five, investors or venture capitalists investing in ideas. So a lot of, entrepreneurs pitch their ideas to them. There was a product which was basically a can of air. I'm not kidding. Can of air. They got an investment. Why? Because they were so good at convincing their idea and the product. That's what you need to do. Be able to convince the employer that you are the right person for the job.
Yeah, I totally agree with that 100%. And I like the fact that you said at the end, we are all salespeople, even though sometimes people say when they think of sales, some people might think, I'm not, I'm going to be an engineer. What do you mean I'm a salesperson? But building yourself and selling yourself to let them know that you are, I think, indispensable. I think somebody would say, go to an employer and say, think of them, you're so indispensable, they cannot imagine you not working with them. And that's the right way to sometimes approach those conversations. So I appreciate that. And I always tell students, do not sell yourself short. Not everybody goes in to leave their country and everything they know to come abroad. So you already have the skill set, you already have the resilience, the tendency to move forward. So do not ever sell yourself short with when you come to US, because you can do a lot more than you believe you can. So I appreciate that, because I think it's an imperative information. And Johan, one thing I want to get from your perspective that I think sometimes international students don't understand, it's the faculty, right? The partnership with the faculty in US, because sometimes they come from countries where you sit in a classroom and the faculty just tells you what to do. You do not talk to them, you do not question them, you just do a final exam. And when you come to US, the environment is a bit different, where faculty can be one of those groups that they can partner with, that they can learn from, and potentially can open the doors for them for future opportunities. Would that be a right statement?
Yeah, and that's you're very right in the sense that look, I mean, what I've experienced in the last 11 plus years I've been teaching is international students tend to be more timid. Um, Perhaps because of our, because of the culture or whatnot. And I am an international, so I tend to relate to that timidity. But you need to get rid of it. Faculties here are there to help you, but you need to approach them first. They cannot, because there are 40, 50, 60 students, depending on the class, they cannot micromanage each and every one of you. Um, if you approach them, be it with the questions you didn't understand in class or asking questions in class, they'll be more than happy to entertain your ideas. And more importantly, outside of class, for instance, at Lally, we have master's research program. So if you're into research, faculties will be more than happy to work with you, be it in research, be it connecting you to someone they know in industry for a project, right? Point here is you need to take proactive steps to reach out to faculties, right? Don't sit back and be fearful of the fact, of unreasonable fact, like, what if I say this and they get upset, or what if I look like a fool, right? I mean, that's the wrong approach to studies in the United States, be it at RPI, be it any other institutions.
Thank you. I appreciate that. As I'm going to combine two questions together because I feel connected, and it has most to do, Philip, with some of the experiential learning opportunities that we spoke about, from co-ops to internships. One question was, I'm assuming one question, I believe I know the answer, but I want you to answer for RPI. A co-op, it's another way to say a CPT opportunity, right? Where internship and experiential learning are is part, like if somebody goes for a co-op, they go for an international student through a CPT, would it be the same? Um,
Yeah. So any work
and
opportunity.
any work. Okay. And
Yeah.
do you are there partnerships with companies that lead directly to internships or jobs with the RPI, or students have to find those opportunities and apply for the CPTs?
Both are
Both.
true at the
So
same
they're
time,
okay,
right?
good to know.
Yeah. So any international student that's going to work in any capacity here while they're on their student visa will need to work with our ISSS office to make sure that we get them properly registered, right? We're kind of in an environment where we need to check all of the boxes and get all of our I's dotted and T's
Yeah.
crossed, right? I don't expect a student, and neither does the institute, to know what all of that looks like on any given day. That's what the ISSS office is for. So the student's proactive piece of this is to find an opportunity with us if they want that. And then we work with ISSS to get them appropriately registered into that space. That looks like a volunteer opportunity with a startup that Johan mentioned, right? That looks like a designing a website for a nonprofit where you won't be paid, but you're going to get credit for it. Um, all of our for-profit business opportunities, whether it's an internship or a co-op, are paid. We just have too many employers that will pay our students for their skills for me to approve an unpaid one. So it doesn't really matter what you call it. It's an internship. That really is just the length of time that you're doing the experience versus a co-op or research
Well,
or any of those things where they're earning money. They all would qualify for CPT.
well, thank you. I mean, I thought that's what the answer, but
Yeah.
and I think students need to understand of all these opportunities. Sometimes, from my experience, some students will not be willing to do an experiential learning opportunity if you didn't pay. But sometimes I always say it will be on your resume and it will give you the return in the future. So if you have an opportunity that you think it will amplify your expertise, I'll always tell students take advantage of it. But it's great to see that most of your employers who work with your students are willing to pay because the skill set that your students bring are of a whole different level. Um,
May
Yeah,
I
if I
add
could
a
there's
just add to
please.
that for 1 second. Yeah, you're exactly right, right? Like, and I want to just be clear. If a student approaches us and says, I have this unpaid opportunity and I really want to do it, and this is why, we will work with you on that. But otherwise, 99% of all of the ones we approve we require they're paid because we don't want people taking advantage of you,
Makes
right?
sense.
And that's a critical piece of what our office does is it makes sure there's equity in that process and that students are not taken advantage of.
No, and I
yeah.
think that's fantastic. And thank you for the explanation, Philip, because I will tell you, not every school will do that. So for you to
Right.
make sure to do that for the students, I think it's something exceptional and not just because I work with I know a lot of schools and not all schools will be the due diligence that your office is doing. So that is fantastic
Let
to
me
hear.
add a point
Yes.
here. We at RPI are all into experiential learning. In fact, the idea of experiential learning in academia was innovated at RPI, believe it or not. So at Lally, we strongly encourage you to try to get an internship or a co-op before you graduate. Yeah, for instance, like last year we had a couple of students, one international, who got an opportunity to do a co-op. Um, One at Disney, one at Netflix, and we are all into it. I mean, in fact, what we also allow is if the role you are getting in those firms are in line with your concentration or with your degree, you may actually do an independent study and get 3 credits for it. Right. So we strongly encourage you to you know enroll in such programs whenever that becomes available. And from placement point of view, oftentimes those internships or co-ops will lead to a job. So that's much easier than actually applying for the job itself. So think about it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. I have another question that I'm going to go in. And I don't think we touched it, but what is a typical process if a student wants to secure an RA or a TA position working at RPI? Is there an opportunity for them to do so, either research assistant or teaching assistant? And if there is, what process? Do they start the process before they arrive to campus or after they arrive to campus?
I can feel the question. I mean, I can speak from Lally's perspective because every school has slightly different policies. At Lally, if you are entering as a master's student, including MBA, then you can definitely apply for a TA-ship, which will, pay you per hour. There's a limit to how many hours you can do. That's an immigration rule. I think it's 20. Um, so you can definitely apply, and you don't have to apply beforehand. You can, come to Lally, and then, the deadline for those applications are a month after the semester begins, every semester. In terms of RA, the seats are very limited. Again, the reason here is you'll be taking 5 courses a semester if you want to get done in a year. So we don't want to add an extra burden in your very short stay at RPI. You have to search for jobs as well. But if you really want to do it, and if you can show us that you can actually handle those work load, then there are few opportunities available. Again, that need not be the application process need not start before you attend. It can be done after you attend RPI.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I'm going to combine two questions together because I feel they are connected. If you have any data to indicate international students, how successful are they once they graduate to get jobs during their OPT? And is there a way you track the success of your alumni over time?
Yes,
Um,
so we can certainly share. It's easier if it's based off major. If anybody has like a major specific international student piece, let me
Okay,
know, and we can certainly
okay.
send you that data. But it is in line with what the institutional data is, right? So between 90 and 95% of them. Where they wind up working, it depends a lot on what they wanted to do and where they wanted to do it. So as I said, we have a lot of international students that come to us and then leave and work internationally. So that's how you get a very strong international alumni network, is when we have
Mhm.
those situations. But yeah, anything specific, just reach out to me and I'll be glad to send that data.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think the general information, 90 to 95%, I think it's,
Yeah.
I believe, higher than the usually the average for a lot of institutions. So that alone speaks a lot. So, and I love the fact, Philip, that you said quite a lot of your students are working internationally because the goal is we talk to students, and I know they want to come and they want to stay in US, but there's not always a guarantee you will stay. But if you come in with the mindset that you're going to get a degree from from RPI that will open the doors to the global opportunities, and you're going to have a global degree, then they will be more open to exploring and looking for opportunities and not just stuck into one venue. And if that doesn't work, what next? So it's exciting to know that you have the global network. So I appreciate that
Yeah,
information.
it's also like in Johan's area that some of these financial institutions are global. So you think about a MasterCard, for example, that recruits here. I'm not talking about the credit card. I'm talking about the actual company that handles all of the transactions across the world, right? In that space. They have offices all over the world. So
Mhm.
your entry point may be through their domestic headquarters here in the US because of your RPI experience and the collaboration that Lally has with those companies, but you wind up being placed in a international destination or location, and that's a really cool thing that you can do a lot here if you want it.
Let me
I,
add
I
a
yeah.
few things here. Remember that all our master's program, including MBA, are STEM programs, right? So all
Mhm.
our concentrations or degrees are very quantitative heavy and tech heavy. Now, in this day and age, RPI is known for our technology and innovation. And in this day and age, most of the universities not just want students or employees with management background, but also quantity background. And
Yes.
our students have both in one. So again, as Philip pointed out, it depends on the field you enter and depends on yourself as well. But most of our students, be it international, be it domestic, don't find a lot of issues finding a placement.
I appreciate that. And I know we're almost done with time, so I'm going to finish with one question. And the rest, I think we've answered, but the few we have not because they were kind of answered for in between. But the one question, just from your perspective, what kind of students thrives at RPI that sees the best outcomes? Like, if you think of us as the biggest success stories, what kind of that student will be it? So for these future students, knowing that, okay, I've got to aim higher to retire.
I'll go first. As I
Please,
said, if you are admitted to the RPI, then
you're
you
already
are
there.
at par with everyone else who attends RPI because we have a strong bar when it comes to admission. In my opinion, the person who thrives after graduation and even during their stay at RPI is, as I pointed out, someone who is very good at selling ideas, very outspoken. To me, that's one of the most important skill you need to have. Now, very few people are born with that skill, but a lot of others acquire it through practice. And all of you can achieve that skill. So, get rid of that fear of public speaking. And, if you have any issues, always seek help.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And I think that is a unique thing about RPI, is that if you do need help in any of those spaces, there is a resource here for you. And so being proactive and curious, those are the two qualities that I see are the happiest and most successful students. Be curious. Don't be boxed into a certain way of thinking. Be open to new ideas and new concepts and new opportunities. Um, and be proactive when you see those things. As Johan said, if you need help, the faculty are here to support you in that space. If you need help with time management, we have a student success team that is there to support you in that. If you have visa or immigration issues, again, those are things you want to be proactive about. An office dedicated just for that. So when you reach out to those resources, they will support you and help you. And then as you continue in your journey of life, continue to be curious and look at new things. That's what I would
Um,
suspect would make the best RPI student. And in full disclosure, my son goes here, and that's
okay,
what I was using to describe. I think that's the kind of human he is. So,
that's awesome. Well, thank you both, and I agree with all of it. So my journey in US did start as an international student over 20 some years ago. And I tell students all the time, whatever the stories you tell yourself are out of fear, because when you start and you take that step, you realize people are kinder, people are willing to help, people are there to support you and guide you. You just have to show up. And I always tell students, if you do not ask, no is guaranteed. But maybe and yes, it's on the table if you go ask and move forward. So I appreciate that, because I think those are lessons not just for RPI. I think lessons for them to take in their lives, to be curious, to be open-minded, to not be shy, to learn how to sell themselves well, and to know that people, if they need help, people are there to help them. So they just have to show up with that mindset. I truly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for your time, both Philip and Johan. I'm sure our students, our partners did appreciate it. I wish you a wonderful rest of the day. I do hope I get a chance when I visit RPI to meet you both and say hello in person. And to everyone who joined, thank you for spending the time. We hope we got you a little bit more excited. And I hope you know and understand now that if you join RPI, you're joining a family and an institution that will help you thrive and find your voice and make the difference that we know you are meant to do. Thank you, everybody, and I wish you all a wonderful day.
Have a
Bye-bye.
thank
good
you.
day. Bye-bye now.
Take care.